Hi everybody, it's Rebecca from Enrich and I've got another beautiful lady here to interview. So this is Crystal. I'll let her introduce herself and just say a little bit about herself. Like, where are you, Crystal, and what you do?
Hi everyone, I'm Crystal and I live in Tauranga and I'm a support worker and I look after a lady in a wheelchair, and I'm a mum of two boys and a fiance and the mother of some fur babies.
Some fur babies. Is it Lilo?
Lilo the
Oh,
dog,
Lilo.
Sophie the cat, Spyro the cat, Bono the cat, Freddy the frog, and Fishton the fish.
Have you got a frog?
They're not furry, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
The
cute.
frog.
That's all
He's
right.
like 8 years old.
The frog is 8 years old.
The frog is 8 years old. Yep, he's been with me
Holy
for a long
shit.
time. Right from
What
the
is,
kid.
you had it since it was a tadpole?
Yeah.
So what is their life expectancy? How long does a frog last?
About 10 years in captivity.
Wow, so you got another 2 years left of Fredo.
Yeah. We'll
Oh,
see how it goes. We might defy the odds and get in the Guinness Book of Records, but who knows?
who knows? Yes,
Dancer.
funny. Oh well, thank you so much for jumping on and doing an interview with me today. So, the thing that I wanted to talk about with you was about how we're in this lockdown at the moment, and everybody's finding it not stressful, but everybody's dealing with it in their own ways. You know what I mean? Like some people are really struggling because they aren't necessarily used to being alone or whatever like that. Other people might be struggling financially. Like there's a lot going on at the moment. Um, so I wanted to share some of your thoughts on how things are going for you and some advice that you might have for people.
Yeah, so for me, all this corona stuff, when it first started, yeah, it was pretty big. And I think that as Kiwis, we tend to bury our heads in the sand, and if it's not staring us right in the face, then we're not really believing that it's happening. And through my upbringing and through certain things in my life that have happened, I've been someone who likes to kind of pre-plan ahead, which has led to a lot of anxiety through my life. And when I found my way into Alcoholics Anonymous 3.5 years ago, I started looking at life a lot differently, and there's a 12-step program which is suggested for alcoholics of my type, and that sent me on a journey of really being able to try and look at things half full and not half empty, and look at the positive things in life. So when this all started, and also things in my life that have taught me common sense, I suppose. A lot of what people say that young people don't have these days is common sense because they weren't brought up with it. All these health and safety rules, a lot of it's common sense. So common sense told me that this virus was spreading without us really knowing how badly in this country because the testing wasn't being done. So common sense says if they're not doing testing, they're not finding cases. And when they're only doing testing in Auckland, they're going to have a lot of cases in Auckland and not many other places. So, clicking onto that pretty quickly, I needed to make sure that my family was safe and pulled my kids out of school earlier, and started hatching a plan.
So what was your plan? Like, if we talk about what was your plan, like obviously you got the kids out of school. I mean, you're still working, caring for this lady, which is your job.
Yep.
And then, like, you've stocked your house up, have you? You've got your bits and your bobs and everything that you need.
Now we have, but not really. Like I sort of fell into that trap too of saying like I could put together a kit, and have this and that. But I guess not actually going out and getting a container and making an actual kit. But in my mind, the kit was ready. And I was I sort of was getting certain things that I wouldn't normally get, some like extra of, and just like that might be needed. I suppose if anything, Corona's really shown me that I do have a lot of what I needed in the first place. Yeah, and that makes me think that definitely through what I've dealt with in my life, I have become a person that just kind of lives prepared.
Yes.
You know, and even during lockdown, and my son got hooked up on the fence with wire in his leg.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, the first thing that my partner did, who's also in recovery, he didn't even know what was going on, but ran down there with wire cutters. I mean, who does that? And yet he needed them.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's funny how even when you haven't exactly got like a kit that sits in the corner with a big title on it that says, you know, use this in an event of an emergency, we've got things placed around the place that they are there if we need them.
And you know what? That is a perfect segue into, you know, you're saying, even though we didn't prepare and we don't have this kit, so to speak, we've already got what we already need, and we've got it, what we already need in our head, right?
The tools in the toolbox that, you can, and even to have masks and gloves sitting out drying, or, you know, sitting in the sun, because I believe the sun's one of our best defenses against this.
Yeah.
To, you know, put everything that's been worn out to my lady who I work for, to her place, or to the supermarket, and put that out in the sun when I get back. And you know, there having to be some gloves and a mask that was sitting there. And I could put those on, and I could also teach my son the first thing to do was breathe through his nose. And he actually let me push the wire out of his leg, which he's a kid who doesn't stay still. He can freak out. But you know, it was like having all the tools there, doing everything right, trying not to go to A&E, so that we didn't have to sit around other people that could be sick, make us sick.
Yeah.
But you know, it came down to we just had to. I'd done everything I could, but at least I knew that I'd done everything I could before we left.
Yeah.
And he's sweet as now. He's healing.
Yeah. I wonder how many other people have gone through some scary things at home, like accidents or whatever like that, and you know, like we are kind of going, oh well, should we go to the doctor, or should we go to the hospital, or should we just try and deal with it on our own? You know, like there's this whole thing at the moment, like we know we don't want to clog the phone lines up or whatever. We don't want to be clogging up the waiting rooms or the doctors who really need to be seeing the people. I've got a friend who just started working for the Women's Refuge, and she was saying to me this morning that they've got a 24/7 helpline for them, because people like that, you know, who are stuck maybe in domestic violence situations, it's so important that they know that they still have someone to contact through this time, you know, even though we're in self-isolation, it's like you're not alone.
Yeah.
And somebody's there for you if you need, you know.
Yep.
So I want to talk about that a little bit with what you're doing, because you're doing an amazing thing where you are actually, because you go to your AA meetings, you're actually going to start hosting some on Zoom for people.
Yep.
Which
kind of carrying my home group on to online. Normally I would have like people to help me through that.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't have a lot of contact with the old timers. They're not on social media.
Oh yeah.
And some of the ones that are more capable with technology are only still quite new. So giving someone who's new into recovery that responsibility, and them trying to face their fear at this point of everything, with a lot of fear going on, is actually not healthy for that person. So, you know, through the program, I've learnt to know my boundaries, but also know when to push my limits.
Yeah.
And service is, and that's what it is. It's service. Service is what keeps me sober. Being able to not having any of my usual places to go to for recovery is real daunting. And
Yeah.
when I go into the 24/7 meeting that's been hosted for people all around the world, I watch and I listen and I take notes on how they do things. But it's all, it's everyone's coming together for a common purpose. The reassuring thing about Corona is that we're all in this together. This is the
Yeah.
first time in history, in absolute history, that we're all in a common situation. And
Mm.
we're all striving for one purpose, and that's to stay alive. That's to stay healthy and to beat this and get through to the other side.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's disrupted a lot of our lives, and the things that we would normally do on a day to day or a week to week, or the social circles we used to be in. And we spoke a little bit before about the people who have codependency. They need to be around other people to help them through this time. So this must be such a struggle for them right now.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've got a neighbour across the road who's very much like that. Um, and I wonder how she's getting on, but at the same time, I can't go over there, and I can't do her life for her. And these things were there before the lockdown, but I think it also is really good to help teach people, just to show people that are forced to be on their own or on their own with their kids that they are okay. They're actually fully okay on their own. They don't need somebody there. I mean, we
Yeah.
all need connection. We all need to be connected some way, but that you can do it. It's just changing your mindset. It's
Yes.
the way you look at it.
Yeah.
You know,
And I
what,
love
what,
that. Changing
yeah,
the mindset, it's so important. Half of everything that we do is to do with our mindset.
yeah,
Like we were talking before about um what alcoholism actually is, and you were saying it's not a drinking, what is it, I always forget it, it's not a drinking problem, it's a, you say it.
thinking problem. Yep, it's not a drinking disease; it's a thinking disease.
Yeah.
Um, and addiction is a disease of mind, body, and soul. And it consumes. And in this sort of time, it was something I noticed when I first got into recovery. I became really full on with Marketplace, and it became an addiction to buy and even do up and sell, or upgrade my cars, or and I was just a solo mum on the benefit on my own with my kids, dealing with life on life terms for the first time without alcohol and drugs. And it was, it manifested into Marketplace.
Mm.
And, and there was a safer thing, but it can consume just as much as drugs and alcohol it can consume, because you start to feel like you haven't fulfilled what you need to fulfill, and as part of that addiction. And so people in this time will be looking for food for comfort, TV for comfort, you know,
to be
exercise,
yeah to be honest,
lots of things.
I think a lot of us are kind of turning to alcohol maybe as a comfort too, because most of us aren't having to wake up on a Tuesday morning and go to work anymore. So having, an extra wine or a beer or something like that on the Monday night, um, you know. So I kind of feel like it is bringing up a little bit. We might be finding ourselves starting to go into a slippery slope of some bad habits right now as well. So what would be your advice to people who might be noticing right now that maybe they used to only drink, say, on the weekends, but now they're finding themselves drinking a lot more during the week, and then maybe they might be finding themselves now drinking a lot more on, say, a Wednesday night than they would typically, like, what's your advice for those people?
Yeah, well, as far as it goes in Alcoholics Anonymous, if you're an alcoholic, the best thing to do is just to not pick up that first drink, because it's not the 8th drink that gets you drunk, it's the first drink, it's the first sip, it's that first little bit that goes to the lips. So if you you know, a person who likes to have a drink, and you normally have one after work, and you're finding that you wake up and it's already in your head and you're already pre-planning on what time you might have that drink, that could be the very start of recognizing a problem, that it's actually already in the head. And that's where it is a thinking disease. And that can actually manipulate and change your whole day, just working around that one time. You know, that can be a sure sign. And definitely, I have met so many different types of alcoholics that I would not have generalized as an alcoholic before I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, because I kind of thought, I had my own belief system around what an alcoholic was, and then I hear in the room when people share that they also had their own ideas and thoughts on what they perceive an alcoholic to be. But you know, I know of some, you know, a couple of, it's not common to hear it for me, but I have heard ladies come in and speak about how they never drank a drop of alcohol their whole life. They got to about 60 years old, they lost a husband, or they lost a child, or they lost someone close to them, and they just picked up that bottle and they weren't able to put it down. And they didn't have all, say, the stuff that I've had from the start, but they're just as much of an alcoholic as me. It's not based on how much alcohol was drunk. It's based on the thoughts that go on in the head. It's based on the thinking. It's based on, you know, we can pick up a drink, and, you know, sometimes I could pick up a drink and just have a couple, put it down, have my dinner, go to bed. You know, so I'm not an alcoholic because I did that. And alcoholics are only people who drink every day. I don't drink every day. I drink Wednesday night and I drink Friday night or Saturday night. Try to do it Friday night so I can be hungover all day Saturday instead of all day Sunday when I need to get ready to do Monday. So, you know, and I would plan, and it took so much effort to plan that. And then other times were spontaneous. Oh yeah, I'll have a drink. And then I couldn't stop, and it tasted so good. And, you know, so there are AA Zoom meetings online, and there's a 24/7 one with just a meeting ID that you can just pop in. You don't need a password. You can go in and just be anonymous and have no camera on and listen to what people have to say. And I would say that would be the best thing to do right now with all this lockdown. The perfect time to go in and listen and see, you know, what it's all about. And then you'll know whether you relate to what they're talking about or not. And if you don't, you just don't, you know, maybe switch on again a couple more times just to see. They say come to 3 meetings. If you don't think you won after 3 meetings.
Yeah. And we're talking about this because, you know, like I said at the very start, you know, we're all dealing with what's going on in very, very different ways, you know. And as you've mentioned before, you know, with what it is that makes us pick up the drink, it's not wanting to have that drink really, it's the thoughts, it's the emotions. You know, somebody might have lost their job, some people might, you know, the whole household might have been made redundant or anything like that, you know. So there's a lot of emotions going on for people right now, and they're looking for comfort. And you touched on that before, they might be finding the comfort in food, they might be finding it in watching heaps of fucking Netflix off the chart, you know. Like they could find it in all the different ways that they need to find this comfort right now, because, you know, people are worrying, people are anxious, we're alone or whatever like that, we're isolated, we're bored or whatever, you know. So that's why I really wanted to have a chat with you today, because I honestly feel like, I know for myself, I noticed last week I was definitely picking up the drink a lot more last week than I was, you know, this week, just because of boredom or whatever like that. And I guess maybe there was a little bit of starting to get a little bit anxious about what is actually happening in my future or in all of our futures, or, you know, because I like to plan as well. So not being able to kind of plan and know what's going on in the future kind of does get a bit of bubbling of anxiety for me, you know. So I love the fact that we're talking about this, and that you've mentioned, you know, about these online Zoom meetings, because, you know, like right now it might be something that people need to know about, you know, because you know, we might be picking up more bad habits right now and dealing with our stress in particular ways and stuff. And
Yep.
yeah, and
Yeah, well, it's a sure way to feel good in a in an anxious time, in an uneasy time where
yeah,
nobody knows what's going to happen, and to pick up a drink and it will do the trick. And my psychologist, he always says to me, to use drugs, we use drugs and alcohol because it works. It does work. It does work for that. But then what comes after that is that it strips out anything that's good that was in your body. It leaves your brain, dehydrated, and you feel 10 times worse than what you did when you first put that drink to your lips the day before or a couple of days before, however long it's been that, that drink lasted for. But
mm,
it, it's good to know that at the end of the day, you can jump on a Zoom meeting. You don't have to share. You can just listen. And a lot of the times, people who don't want to share will be triggered by something they hear that they relate to. And then, that'll make them want to come forward and say something.
yeah,
And you get some people that are just so resistant, it doesn't work. And that's fine. And then, at the same time, that what I hear a lot at the moment being talked about from all these alcoholics all over the world is that what a great time to have a program, and how all those people out there that don't have a program actually are the unfortunate ones, because our program is for living and it always has been. It's not just for drinking. And so a lot of what it teaches is acceptance, accept the things I cannot change, accept people, places, and things as they are. Know that I cannot control everything.
which
Live in the solution, not the problem.
yeah,
Live in that solution, not the problem. It's my favorite.
that's so funny because
Um,
those principles can relate to everything right now, can't they? I mean, this isn't.
yeah,
I mean, it is a 12-step program for booze, for alcohol, but really the principles that are being taught or that you're learning in there can be applied to so much in life.
yeah, and I mean, the first step is the only one that has to be done 100%. And that is, we came to believe that we were powerless over, and then whatever that is, and that our life had become unmanageable. Life doesn't have to be unmanageable because, your house doesn't have to be upside down and, crap everywhere. Unmanageable can be in your head. Everything
Yeah,
can look pristine around you, and you could have, the best looking house on the street and the most tidiest, cleanest, whatever, and your kids could seem or appear to be all prim, proper, or whatever. But inside your head, it's the complete chaos. So, like that's sort of how I used to live in a sense. Now, everything can look like shit around me, and 9 times out of 10, it doesn't really matter as long as what is up here is tidy and okay. And
yeah.
I like who I am.
That is so
And that,
funny. I'm gonna find this thing that I screenshotted the other day. It is beautiful. It was it's an image that I copied, which I thought was really, really poignant. Do I still have it? Oh yeah. This is it's I'll just read it out. It says, I don't care who I lose anymore as long as I don't lose myself again. And
yeah.
I like that because, that's talking about your head, like staying in your head rather than being out, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That when we live in our heads for too long, our heads can come up with all these great ideas that don't serve us well. So
Yeah.
they say in AA, you're not responsible for your first thought, but you are responsible for your second.
Yeah.
You think it's a great idea to do this or do that, but you have that ability to think again and decide whether that's actually a good idea or not.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at this whole self-isolation time as a clean slate of re-looking at things that are working in our lives and things that aren't working in our lives, and I'm doing a lot of work on myself as well to do with that, like I'm going to do a detox in 10 days. which is going to be an interesting thing, but I'm really looking forward to it. Like eating a lot better, drinking a lot more water, exercising more, and actually using this time to do something good, you know,
Yep.
because we'll all look back probably on however many weeks we spend in self isolation, and we're either going to look back at it and go, shit, I had all this time that I could have done, but. Or we can look back and be like, I bloody used that time wisely, All
Yeah.
those things, yeah, all those things that I kept putting off and not doing or whatever, I smashed them out and got them done, you know?
Yeah. And that's
But,
it. Like, what are we in such a hurry to get back to? The old normal, and like my psychologist says, there's no such thing as normal, only average. And it's
yeah,
the average that you make it. And, I'm not in a hurry to get back out on the roads and be doing the school run in the morning, coming home, having to go to my lady. And I'd go to a meeting Monday morning, then I would go straight to my lady, and then I'd miss out on lunch, and then I would be exhausted, and then I would pick up the kids, and then I would come home, and a lot of that stuff was the norm, but it's been nice to not have to do that. It's been nice when I drive to work that there's hardly any vehicles on the road, and well, there is actually a lot more now, and there shouldn't be, but either way,
yeah.
um,
Actually, that
and
makes me want to ask you because that's the first post that I put on my page today was what has been your favorite thing about the self isolation so far?
yeah,
Looking at it in
yeah,
a positive light, like what has actually been your favorite thing so far with this?
yeah, not the lack of traffic is nice.
Yeah,
It's what we wanted to run away from and move to Caldo because this place gets so built up and it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Um, it's nice. Yeah, I tell you what, one of the things that I am looking forward to coming up to Easter is that we're not going to have the death toll that we normally have every year.
that's
You know,
such a good thought, Crystal. Never thought about that.
like okay, people are dying and it is serious. But there are also a lot of unjust deaths that happen around this time of year anyway. And they've really got a habit of pointing it out every year. This is how many people have died on the road from Friday till Sunday, and it's ridiculous
Yeah.
amount of people. But it's nice to know that, and even though I do know that an unfortunate incident has happened recently because of it being locked down and there being maybe these people used to ride their bikes on the road. As a general rule, I don't know, but there is a lot more people out on bikes and a lot more people walking, a lot more little kids, and people actually need to slow down and be a lot more aware because there are people out there hooning around, and I found myself actually not hooning like I was before, trying to get through the traffic because there is less traffic, and it's made me more cautious of people
Mm.
in
I think you
incidents.
touched I think you touched on that really well as well. Like we're so used to in the life we used to live going full tip, we're always on the go, 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 like we're always looking at the
Yeah,
watch, we've got
racing
places to
everyone
be.
everywhere.
Yeah. But now we're getting forced to slow down, take our
Yeah,
time, smell the
this is
frickin'
actually what the
flowers.
world needed. The world needed to slow down. You
Yeah.
know, I think it felt like, for me, there was actually a massive pressure build up, and I had a lot of sort of insight into something coming. But I get that sometimes, but I never know what it fully is. I'm not psychic. I don't have premonition, but my senses. It's like my partner calls them my spidey senses.
Yeah.
And my spidey senses go off, and I think that is very much related to trauma in life with fight and flight, and being an empath and being sensitive to energies. Those energies start to change, and I pick up on them, and I'm already in this drive that I don't even know that I had in me or that existed, and that's actually one of my strongest points about myself is that in event of an accident or a catastrophe type of situation, I'm like one of those first attenders. I'm like, and I do everything so well, I'm not even really feel like I'm in my body at the time. And then after it, I look back and go, wow, like, wow, like
How
I
did they
can
do that?
naturally, like, and there's got to be something in there, you know. There's got to be something to that, and I do believe we all have gifts, and I believe a lot of alcoholics and addicts are the same as me. They're empaths, they're sensitive, they're caring people, they feel too much, they think too much, they overanalyze, and that's, you know, not necessarily a bad trait. It's just we live in an environment that's so crazy, and you know, life on life terms is really, really freaking hard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to be able to cope with those, you know, having the 12-step program, going to meetings and just having people remind me that I'm an alcoholic and I just need to not pick up the first drink. Or, you know, I'm an addict and I can easily pick up something and, you know, and run with it. You know, it's like all or nothing. And it's exhausting. But what AA teaches me is to balance it out. Where it used to go, you know, like this, a roller coaster, real highs and real lows, now more like this. So,
Yeah.
you know, everything's a lot more manageable. And that's
Yeah.
the first, you know, we admitted that our lives, that we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. And if you can accept that, you know, whatever it is in your life that's unmanageable. And then, you know, the second one is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And then the third step is that we handed our will and our lives over to a God of our understanding. So it doesn't have to be God as, you know, religion speaks of God, but it needs to be something that's greater than yourself that you can hand things over to. Because there are shitty things that happen that we have no control over. And, you know, and to not pick up that drink, we have to hand it over. We have to literally hand it over to a power greater than ourselves.
Is it also a little bit about kind of, instead of us trying to do everything on our own, it's kind of letting it out so that we can actually have help from something else rather than feeling like we're all alone in this? Is it kind of like that?
Yep. Yeah, a lot of the AAs online that are isolated on their own or with their one cat or their one dog or something, that's where they're really having to draw on their faith and their higher power in this moment so that they don't feel alone. And, you know, and it's working for them, and they keep reiterating that, and different people reiterate that. And yeah, it's some people expect, you know, lights and a big boom and an answer, you know, from above, like, I hear you, but that's not going to happen. You know, that's not reality. But what people have when they have a higher power is they have faith and they can just turn things over. And then, you know, for me, I believe that I believe in God. I believe that God works through people. I don't believe that God has all control over everything. Otherwise, why would a lot of this stuff happen? But I do believe that He puts people, places, and things in my path on a daily basis. And as it said in the rooms, when I jump out of the driver's seat and I stop trying to control everything and hand the steering wheel over to my higher power and let them get in the driver's seat, everything runs smoothly.
Yeah. Do you know,
Because, you know,
I love that. I love that because in what I do, you know, I've got a lot of spiritual friends, and that is something that I hear all the time is what you're talking about, you know, you handing over the steering wheel. But the way they say it is get out of your own way. That's the thing, is we keep getting in our own way. You know, you just need to get out of your own way, and then we can actually start going towards the path of the way that we need to go, you know, because we've got this higher power, or we've got, you know, we're following the natural path of where our life is supposed to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, and things happen a lot more naturally as well, and holistically, as you know, and rather than trying to control everything, because no matter how much we try to control things are always going to happen that are well beyond our control. And then when we have all this planning going on, that comes in, completely ruins the plan, and then you're like a fish out of water. Whereas if you learn to take the big waves and ride them, then we'll be back down to those little waves and then back down to calmer seas. But when you fight against it, you don't get anywhere. You're just struggling to get out the back of those waves instead of riding them in and just going with it. And it's a huge thing for a lot of alcoholic addicts. Is when I can't control something, I'm not doing well. So if I pick up a drink or a drug, then I'm now in control of what happens.
Yeah.
When reality is not, because as soon as you put that shit in your system, and add to it, obviously, you know, if you can have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, sweet. But if you're like me, then you don't necessarily generally stop at 3 or 4. And then a whole lot of bad choices are made and a whole lot of events happen from those bad choices that are made. So for me, it's that simple. Don't pick up the first drink and I won't need to worry about getting drunk.
Yeah.
Making choices.
Yeah. And people can relate to that in so many different arenas of life. You know, I know that obviously we're talking about alcohol a lot in our talk today, but that's because that's your journey, you know, that's your story. Whereas somebody might be saying about a biscuit, they pick up the first biscuit, that's them, that's the whole packet done. They might even start on the second one, you know, like everybody's got something. Most people will have something of vice.
That's called Overeaters Anonymous, OA, and it exists. And like I didn't know that coming into AA. I found one of the ladies that attended AA. I'd been on the phone after a meeting for like ages, and she turned up and asked me if I was coming to the next meeting, and I was like, "What meeting?" And then she was reluctant to stay, but said it was Overeaters Anonymous, and I was like, "No." But then I'm like, "What?" And then I found out, yeah, there's if you jump online, have a look. There's so many anonymous groups. It's crazy. But yeah, the
again,
thing,
kind of
programs. They're all the same 12 steps. Al-Anon for family members of alcoholics or partners of alcoholics. All steps teach that person to bring it back to themselves. Don't enable, don't put up with that stuff, because you're enabling that person to stay sick. You're enabling that person to treat you like crap, put up boundaries, move forward, know your self-worth. They all teach it. And that's it. You can use 12-step programs. A little while ago, I did a course through the church, and it was an identity course and Plumline, and it was really interesting. And they had some literature there, and one of the books that I looked in, there it was, the 12 steps. That's 12 steps, the 12 steps, and they all had God in them. And I was like, holy crap. People come in here and say, I don't believe in God. Why are you talking about God? I don't like this God stuff. God let me down. God's a bad God. It's a punishing God. What are you on about? And then, but, you know, and then if they keep coming back, they end up getting a higher power, and a lot of them end up calling it God. And it's really, you know, and my partner was exactly the same. And it's cool to see. It's cool to see people's journey. Some it's the stars, some it's the universe, some it's the trees. And that's cool too. That's fine. You know, and it was actually the Oxford group, which are a church group that actually put the steps together. And I found out recently that steps were never put together by alcoholics, which I'm really pleased about, because I started wondering whether or not I should be going by these steps, if they're all made up by alcoholics who are, excuse my French, was fucked in the head, you know? Did they make them up while they were still drinking? Yeah. Well, you know, because that's what we do. We question everything. You know, and that's usually when somebody taps me on the shoulder after a meeting and says, keep it simple. First things first. Live in the moment. You've only got 24 hours. This too shall pass. You know, and it's all these sayings and that are said continuously, and you're like, oh, so cliche. But, you know, then you'll see someone else in that situation. You'll tap them on the shoulder and you'll go, this too shall pass. One step at a time. First things first. Live and let live. You know, and all the things. And you find yourself passing it on. And that's what it's about. It's about passing on the message of recovery. And that can be just recovering from being your own self.
Yeah. You know? Oh, I love that. Recovering from being your own self.
Yeah, and from the old beliefs that, you know, we were talking about earlier as well.
Beliefs, yeah.
You actually recover from your old way of thinking. That's like the biggest thing that I've ever got out of AA. And it helps me to, you know, it's so hard to explain. Like people say, you know, it's so hard to explain how it works. but it works when you work at it. And
Yeah.
just keep coming back and, don't leave before the miracle happens.
The interesting things that you've brought up throughout this whole conversation that I've really loved is we've spoken about how it is all about how the way we think, like that's really the triggers, isn't it? Is like what's going on in our mind, and then we're acting in these ways that might not be that don't serve us, but it comes back to emotions, doesn't it? Like if we're feeling a certain emotion, that's going to trigger the way we think about things, and then we're going to act by either picking up the drink or picking up the cigarettes or picking up the bloody piece of cake or whatever it might be, and creating these habits, and it's kind of like we're trying to self-soothe ourselves by using these certain things because of what's going on in our head, I think it's such an interesting thing, and I feel like that's something that all of us can relate to. We all have that, whatever it might be,
Yeah.
Trying to deal with emotions is tough.
Creatures of comfort, and we're driven and we judge by what we've learned growing up, and I wish I knew a lot of the stuff when I was a kid at school. I wish I knew a lot of that stuff when I was being bullied. I wish I knew it was their shit, not mine. Instead of taking it so personally, because that was my biggest downfall, taking everything personally. And I love that saying, it's not all about you, because I like to apply it to myself. It's actually not all about me. That's actually their shit.
Yeah.
I don't have to take on their shit today.
Yeah.
They're projecting their stuff, and and that's where we come into a conversation sometimes outside the meetings with AA people that that these people that no, I can't remember where I was going to go with that.
That's okay.
No, I can't remember where I was going to go with that. I've got flies. Sorry.
That's all right.
Flies that keep putting me off.
Flies in your head. All right, but that's okay, my darling. What we'll do is we're going to wrap this up anyway, because I think that we've been talking quite a bit, because naturally that's what me and you do. We can just natter and natter and natter until, we get told that, our internet connection's gone over the data or whatever like that.
Do you have more flies at your house since this lockdown?
We have wasps. We got shit hole of wasps going on.
Yeah, we've had so many. I mean, my frog loves it, but we've had so many flies, and it's like, do they all know we're on lockdown too or something?
Yeah, maybe, or I don't know what it might be, but yeah, that's an interesting thing to Thank you for taking the time out to have a chat with me and to share your thoughts and your wisdom and your knowledge. And I'm sure that somebody's going to watch this and it's going to touch on something within them and help them and maybe give them some answers or give them some advice or guidance. I don't think we touched on, did you say that how long you've been sober for?
3.5 years.
Yeah, which is so bloody awesome. Such a good, I want to say effort, but I don't know if that's the right word. It's like, it's just amazing.
I went through so many self-help groups before I gave up alcohol, and I was trying to find the answer to life. What was the answer? I never realized it was putting down the drink was going to change everything. I thought that putting down the only thing that I had in my life to get me through things would be the worst idea possible, and it's ended up being the best thing I ever have done in my whole life. It is the best thing I ever did. So 3.5 years is only a small amount of time compared to how long that I drank and drugged, but it's amazing how much stuff can change in 3.5 years.
Absolutely.
Even one day to the next, it's crazy, and it's got to be better than any drink, because at least I don't know what's around the corner, and I can be excited. Whereas I know if I put a drink to my lips, I already know exactly what's going to happen, and it's just not worth it. And it's a short buzz, short-lived, for a long-term feeling, horrible, depressed, down, no drive, no motivation, life is shit, I want to die. And that's where it takes me. It
Yeah.
took me there. It took me to where I nearly wasn't here. So, yeah, thanks for helping me remember and realize how much I have done and how far I've come and how every single day has counted. Every 5 minutes.
And that's where I kind of want to leave this, because you've said it before, and I think that that's a beautiful thing that we should reiterate again to end this interview for everybody at this moment during this time with the lockdown and everything like that. And you said it so beautifully, you know, this too shall pass.
Yep.
This too
One of
shall
my
pass.
favorites I have to say that I really need out there is nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there thinking, should I go on the meeting? Shouldn't I? There's no reason why you can't. I mean, it's just an excuse, because you don't have to show your face. You get to hear all the stories. And, you know, nothing will change if nothing changes.
Yeah.
If you do the same thing every day, same things happen every day.
Yeah. And that applies to so much stuff, doesn't it? You know, like nothing changes if nothing changes. You know, if you're trying to do anything in life, change any habit, you know. So, no, that's a great one. Thanks for sharing that with us all.
Yeah.
And I would love to catch up again and have a chat. And I want our next interview to be about trauma, because I think between the two of us, I think that we've got a lot of amazing wisdom, experience, and guidance that we could share with a lot of people in regards to trauma. So if you're open to doing that, we could organise another Zoom and have a chat about that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Actually.
Okay. Sounds
Thanks,
good.
Awesome.
Thanks, honey. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who is watching. And we hope that you found some comfort in some of the things that we said. So thank you. See ya. Bye.